Hey, I'm Dr. Mark. I'm a surgeon and I have a PhD in the science of decision making. And today I want to talk about the science behind why we can make all the right choices and still end up in a career, a relationship, a city that just feels wrong. This science is the same reason that Netflix won over Blockbuster. It's the reason that the keyboards that we type on look the way they do, or even the American healthcare system looks the way it does. Welcome back to things that I've learned from the science of decision making that are just broadly useful in everyday life. And please, as always, remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It really helps. Now, I'm old enough to remember Blockbuster, which means I'm old enough to remember VHS tapes, but there's a fascinating story behind why the home video industry developed on VHS. Back in the 1970s, two companies developed home recording technology. One was a massive industry leader called Sony. They developed a format called Betamax, and the other was JVC. They developed the format that we know as VHS. Now, by all indications, Betamax was a better product. Sharper picture, better color depth, less color bleed, more compact tape. It was just a better product. Sony, in addition to having a better product, also had first mover advantage. Their product came out before VHS did, about a year before. But chances are you've never seen a Betamax tape, and that's because there was one small difference. VHS tapes could record longer than Betamax tapes could, and that was good for two things: for recording football games, and I kid you not, for porn. The other problem is that the machines that played VHS tapes were different from the machines that played Betamax tapes. So consumers who couldn't afford both machines had to decide between the two. And it turns out that color depth and less color bleed is less important than football games and porn. And so that meant that consumers bought a little bit more VHS players. And that slight edge on the market meant that Blockbuster started to stock more VHS tapes, which meant that consumers bought more VHS players. And within 10 years, Betamax was dead. Even though, by all accounts, it was a better product. And that is path dependence. And I go much deeper into the science of path dependence in this week's blog, which you can find in two places: on my website, markschreim.com/blog, and also on my Substack, solvingforwhy.substack.com. But this path dependence goes so much further than choosing VHS over Betamax. Our lives, our careers have the same dynamic. For example, if you take a job in a certain industry, you start to develop skills that are more useful in that industry and maybe a little bit less useful in other industries. And that very small difference means that the next job choice that you make is a little bit more constrained. And every choice that you make may be reasonable on its own, but it then narrows the set of choices you have available to you in the future. And that is how path dependence brings us from making totally reasonable, totally defensible choices into jobs and relationships that we are stuck in. Now, in next week's video, I'm going to teach you the antidote to path dependence, but I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments, in which part of your life do you feel like you've made reasonable, rational decisions, but the whole direction feels off? And hey, if this was useful, please remember to like and subscribe so the next video can find you, and I will see you next week.